Hey do, merry do, ring a dong dillo. Ring a dong, hop along, follow the willow. Tom bom, jolly Tom, Tom Bombadillo. Frodo and Sam stood as if enchanted. The wind puffed out. The leaves hung silently again on stiff branches. There was another burst of song, and then suddenly, hopping and dancing along the path, there appeared above the reeds an old battered hat with a tall crown and a long blue feather stuck in the band. With another hop and a bound, there came into view a man, or so it seemed. At any rate, he was too large and heavy for a hobbit, if not quite tall enough for one of the big people, though he made noise enough for one, stumping along with great yellow boots on his thick legs and charging through grass and rushes like a cow going to drink. He had a blue coat and a long brown beard. His eyes were blue and bright, and his face was red as a ripe apple, but creased into 100 wrinkles of laughter. In his hands he carried on a large leaf, as on a tray, a small pile of white water lilies. "Help!" cried Frodo and Sam, running towards him with their hands stretched out. "Whoa! Whoa! Steady there!" cried the old man, holding up one hand, and they stopped short as if they had been struck stiff. "Now, my little fellows, where be you a-going to, puffing like a bellows? What's the matter here, then? Do you know who I am? I'm Tom Bombadil. Tell me, what's your trouble? Tom's in a hurry now. Don't you crush my lilies." It's in that manner that Frodo and Sam encounter Tom Bombadil in the Old Forest. Merry and Pippin are with them, but they've been sort of captured by Old Man Willow, which, in the special editions of the Peter Jackson movies, we get something of a tribute to this sequence, but it doesn't do justice to the fact that if you haven't read the books, you probably don't know who Tom Bombadil is. Equally, if you have read the books, you've got an idea on who Tom Bombadil is, but even in the books, we don't know who Tom Bombadil is. He's a very enigmatic and very, to a degree, silly character, but very lovable. Now, I want to talk to him about him as an untold hero, because he plays an important part in the story, and he makes such an important part that he can be cut out callously. It makes sense to cut him out, to be honest, because it would only create confusion, I would expect. However, his presence in the Old Forest is enough for him to be discussed at the Council of Elrond when they are deciding what to do with the One Ring. And that's because after he saves Merry and Pippin, he takes the four hobbits to his house and entertains them. And then later on, when the hobbits are on their way to Bree, he saves them from the wights on the Barrow Downs. And importantly, is the one who, in the process of cleaning out the wights, gives the hobbits their blades of Westerness, which obviously play an important part later in the story. It's during their stay with Tom Bombadil that Tom holds up the ring, looks at it, puts it on, and it has no effect on him. None whatsoever. And this is one of those things that is discussed at the Council of Elrond, to the point that it is suggested that if they can't destroy the ring, then they can hide it. And the suggestion is to give it to Tom Bombadil, who it's Gandalf who I believe, who says sort of that would be a good idea, except he won't care about the One Ring, and he'll probably just lose it at some point, and then the cycle starts again. And it won't be done carelessly or maliciously. It will just be he sees little value to the purpose of the ring, to the ring, and so the idea is put to one side and never really spoken about again. But Tom is one of those untold heroes, because as I've just sort of said, it's I can understand why with the Peter Jackson films and any adaptation, you look at the story and you probably look at how you can trim it down, and sort of sadly, Tom, lovely, stupid, excitable Tom, is probably the first thing to be discarded. And I would imagine there's probably every intention of trying to include him in a story, the telling of the Fellowship of the Ring. However, there's probably just that conclusion that we have to trim time, and this nonsense section of the story is the section they choose to cut, which is very sad, because in preparation for making this video, it's like thinking about sort of the hobbits in the old forest is an adventure for them. It's sort of after evading the Black Riders, this is their sort of first proper adventure. And it bridges sort of between leaving the Shire to get into Bree, meeting Strider, and then sort of the seriousness of the story. This is a mini adventure, if you like, a subplot where there is some peril. Obviously, they nearly die with the Barrow Wights on the Barrow Downs, and Tom has to save them. Prior to that, their issue is Old Man Willow. From the first time I read Lord of the Rings, I was captivated by Tom Bombadil. And while I've got a video I made sort of last year in regards to spending time in Australia with my nan and granddad, it's with some fondness I'll always remember dragging my nan around Fremantle and Perth looking for the copy I still have of The Adventures of Tom Bombadil. As I said, he is a nonsense character. And he's only a hero in my mind because I get frustrated that he gets missed out from a general audience that aren't book readers, because there's that childhood sort of storytelling element that is about Tom Bombadil, sort of Enid Blyton-ness type thing, sort of silliness and animals and magic and just general gaiety, joyousness, for the simple pleasure of being joyful. And much in the same way that Harry Potter captured, certainly in the first couple of books, when they're having their feasts and you're sort of taken to that moment of sort of almost classic English literature. You get that feeling with Tom Bombadil. And in a world where we can be very serious about criticising things or wanting real heroes or sort of dark brooding characters and stories, Tom Bombadil is the banner that should be sung, for everything that represents innocence, purity, and goodwill to people. And that is why Tom Bombadil is such an untold hero. If I remember rightly, towards the end of the story, Gandalf leaves the hobbits, right at the end, after the destruction of the ring and that. I believe Gandalf says he heads into the Old Forest to want to have a chat with old Tom. So he makes a mark, a great impression. It is nonsense for the most part, but it is delicious nonsense. So, to conclude, if you take your time, it is definitely worth reading those couple of chapters before the hobbits get to Bree, before they meet Aragorn, and obviously the pursuit of the Black Riders continues. Try and find the joy in reading Tom Bombadil. I hope you've enjoyed this, and sorry if you don't like my singing. It's just nonsense, and beautiful nonsense. Goodbye.